It's not even a close call. You would fail out of law school.
In this video, Bill O'Reilly shamelessly tries to convince Chris Cuomo that a local protest is actually a civil war funded by China. Watch Cuomo dismantle the conspiracy, tell O'Reilly he'd fail out of law school, and expose the entire lie to his face. Let's watch this clash together, and I'll give my 2 cents at the end.
So Minneapolis and Minnesota, they don't like that. And they're not going to obey the law. And they flat out said, we're not going to obey the law. Whether you like it or not, President Trump or the Congress or anybody else, F you. Okay. So Trump has to react to that because it's an insurrection, just like it was before the Civil War. The state is saying not going to execute what the law of the land is, signed in 1952. That's a huge story. Now, in the meantime, for whatever reason, and I don't know exactly why, some of the Border Patrol and ICE agents overreact and have an attitude that they're going to beat the hell out of you if you impede their work. And that, I said a month ago, that's going to lead to disaster. Because you got a bunch of emotionally fragile people. Both of these dead Americans fit into that category, in my opinion, and we've traced them back. We know who they are. They were activists. Mr. Preddy was a guy who was almost violent, and you saw him kicking a truck. You saw that his rib was broken 11 days ago in a confrontation. He brings a loaded gun into a hot, dangerous confrontation with law enforcement. Who does that? Who does that? No one. All right, but he did. And the poor woman, Ms. Good, is sitting there in a truck trying to block operations, laughing, and then bolts the truck up. And you're going, if there's going to be a tough guy approach, then people are going to get hurt because these people aren't rational. Neither Good nor Pretty were rational. What they did was crazy. And instead of the news media, you and me and everybody else, saying, don't do that. Protest legitimately, but don't put yourself in harm's way. That's not what the media does. The media tries to make martyrs out of the two of them, and that's all right, okay? And then tries to blame Trump for their deaths. It's crazy. And then today, after Trump went out of his way to take a phone call from Fry, and you know that, you reported on that, Fry basically says, F you again. All Trump is asking is that the Minnesota authorities protect the ICE agents from violence, from intrusion, that the local authorities get Mr. Preddy before he breaks something on an ICE truck, all right? They stop that. And Fry says, no, we're not going to do that. In fact, we're going to stand by and stand down while protesters go into a hotel and rip it up because ICE agents are staying there. Now, Cuomo, I'm going to ask you a flat-out question. Is that responsible? Is that responsible?
I see it differently. I don't believe the mayor is saying we're not going to do what you want us to do. Just flat out like that, F you, as you say. Here's what I think is going on.
Said Cuomo. Wait. I don't want big picture.
I thought you asked me a question.
You can do big picture the rest of your show. I want you to answer this question.
I'll answer your question.
I am not going to provide local police protection for the federal agents. Is that a responsible statement, Cuomo?
It's not what he said. He said, I am not going to enforce immigration law. I am not. Hold on. You wanted me to tell you what he said. I'll tell you what he said. He is not going to enforce immigration law, and I am not going to put my resources behind your unconstitutional actions. You call it an insurrection. Even Trump disagrees with you. Even Trump doesn't believe the insurrection. He just said on television to NewsNation, the Insurrection Act is not needed. Okay? So you take that the way you want. I take it as a negation.
That he doesn't believe it.
But
All right,
but I'll tell you the
NewsNation
I'll tell you the big difference.
correspondence.
That's the answer to your question. Hold on a second, Bill. Here's the big difference. Pretty is this, good is that. Here's the mistake, and here's why there's so much outrage, okay? That is real and rational. That's who does crazy things. People who are built up to be so outraged by what's happening, they become desperate, and they do things they shouldn't. The problem is you're pretending that the ICE agents are the same as the protesters, and they're likely to act the same way. No, one is supposed to be trained, which is why we let you have weapons, and you're supposed to de-escalate, and you've been doing the opposite. Okay? These are not supposed to be the death penalty. You kick a truck, you're not supposed to die. You block traffic, you're not supposed to die. That's what people are reacting.
But if you're going to sit there and tell NewsNation viewers that Fry is providing local protection for federal agents,
I never said that.
Then you're misleading your audience.
I never said that.
They are not.
I explained
doing
why
that.
he said
yes, you
no.
are. Oh, Fry didn't say that.
No, I'm not.
You just told me. Oh, Fry didn't say that.
I just had his quote up on the screen. I just had the quote up on the screen, Bill. It says exactly what I said.
Resources.
Bill.
Hold it. Resources is a code. They're not providing protection for the federal agents. Fry knows it. He's a punk, okay? Trump went out of his way to talk to him, and according to Trump, Fry, they came to détente, and then the next day, Fry goes out and says, blank you again. He's a punk.
You can't.
And I am going to predict right now that down the road, he's going to be charged. Fry is going to be charged.
With what?
Okay?
Not liking Trump? What's he going to be charged with?
Insurrection Act.
Look,
Absolutely.
the Insurrection Act, look, they may charge it with them, it's because they have absolutely no respect for the Constitution or the administration of justice. But the idea that this is an insurrection, just read the act, Bill. It's not even a close call. You would fail out of law school. It's not even close.
Oh, come on.
Where is the proof of an organized resistance to overthrow the government?
The proof is that there is federal law that has to be enforced over local law, and Fry refuses to do that. Okay? He is raising the level of
He's not in charge.
So you have foreign money coming into Minnesota to foster unrest against the federal government.
Yes, no good.
And you're
it's no
going,
good. It's no good when they did it on college campuses. No, I'm talking about MAGA with the subpoenas. Bill, you got to keep things straight, brother. You said they're being subpoenaed. They're being subpoenaed because MAGA's going after its political opponents. The money coming in is a problem.
MAGA?
That's not about the subpoenas.
It's the federal government going after. The federal government is issuing the subpoenas, not MAGA. What's the matter with you? You are so lost in your theoretical world.
So when the Democrats were going after, Trump, you said, well, this is the federal government. This is how it works. No, you said it was lawfare. You said it was political playback and that it was baseless and they were ruining the democracy. You said all of it. You said it right here. And you weren't wrong. And you weren't wrong. But now you want to pretend that this is legit. But when Democrats go after Trump, it's illegit. Come on, Trump. Come on. Bill, that's what it is.
It's ridiculous. All you're doing is pettifogging the actual story. And the actual story is an insurrection. It's an insurrection being funded by China. It was an insurrection in the South. It's an insurrection in Minnesota.
This is not an insurrection.
And you don't want to admit it.
Of course, but I have no problem admitting it. I have no problem admitting it if it were true. These are people who are pissed off by what they're seeing happen in their communities. Doesn't mean they want to overthrow the government. And you can't look at the subpoenas. Hey, if Democrats were behind issuing the subpoenas, I wouldn't say it. But they're not, because it's just lawfare. But and yet, I'll tell you how crazy I am. Maybe James Buchanan was also. I'm happy you're back. I'm happy you're back. I still am happy you're back.
Hold it. Robust debate is what this country needs. And that's what we just provided. Thanks for having me on.
I'm happy to be part of it. James Buchanan Cuomo, that's me, brother. I want a t-shirt. Bill O'Reilly.
Okay, take a breath. We need to really unpack that ending because it exposes the entire game plan of the modern right-wing media machine. Did you hear that final conclusion from Bill O'Reilly? After getting cornered on the law, after getting cornered on the facts, he looks Chris Cuomo in the eye and says, "It is an insurrection by China." This is what happens when a narrative collapses in real time. Let's break down the 3 specific failures we just watched, because they are using these tactics on you every single day. First, the definition deficit. The most satisfying moment of that clip was Cuomo telling O'Reilly he would fail out of law school. That wasn't just an insult, it was a fact check. O'Reilly is trying to conflate civil disobedience, which is illegal and should be punished, with insurrection, which is an organized attempt to overthrow the government. Why does he do this? Why is he so desperate to label a local mayor an insurrectionist? It's the dilution strategy. If O'Reilly can convince his audience that a mayor in Minnesota is doing an insurrection, then January 6th doesn't look so special anymore. If everything is an insurrection, then nothing is. It is a deliberate attempt to numb you to the reality of actual treason. Second, the Shanghai pivot. Notice the exact second O'Reilly realized he was losing the legal argument. He stopped talking about the law and immediately pivoted to a conspiracy theory about a guy in Shanghai funneling money. This is called throwing chaff. In military terms, chaff is a cloud of metal foil you shoot out to confuse radar. That is exactly what O'Reilly did. He couldn't defend his position on the mayor, so he threw up a cloud of foreign money conspiracies to confuse the audience. It's a desperate move, and frankly, it's embarrassing for a guy who calls his show the no-spin news. And finally, the hypocrisy trap. Cuomo nailed him on the subpoenas. This is the core of the MAGA mindset right now. When the Department of Justice investigates Trump, O'Reilly calls it lawfare and political payback. But when O'Reilly wants to investigate a Democrat mayor, suddenly federal subpoenas are the law of the land and must be respected. You cannot have it both ways. You cannot cheer for the weaponization of government when it targets your enemies and then cry tyranny when it investigates your friends. Chris Cuomo didn't just win this debate, he exposed that O'Reilly isn't operating in reality. He's operating in a theoretical world where China controls Minnesota just to make Donald Trump look bad. It is a fantasy. And as Cuomo said, you can live in that world of theory all day long, but the rest of us have to live in the real world. I want to know what you think in the comments. Is Bill O'Reilly actually believing this China insurrection theory, or does he just know he has nothing else left to say? If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure you're subscribed. We are going to keep calling out the spin and following the facts. I'll see you in the next video.